Hello, and welcome back to the Five Star Council podcast. This week, we are doing a very special Q&A episode. We've asked you to send us your questions, anything service related, anything related to any of the guests that we've had on the show in the past, and anything you think John would be qualified to try and tackle. So we've got a host of questions I'm going to shoot at you, John. Are you ready for this?
Let's begin.
Awesome. The first question is, should I use Calendly? And do you have any great calendar or scheduling tips?
So this was prompted by a Twitter thread earlier this week. Somebody decided he was going to take some hardline stance, and it was bizarre reading somebody who had just imagined this world of power dynamics in the use of Calendly. And Calendly, or feel free to substitute Acuity or Schedule Once or whatever software you're using. I use Calendly. There we go. It's about making the process easier. Here are the times that I'm available. Here are the times that I'm not available. It's a first bid, and it's there to make things easier. Of course, you should be using Calendly, and you should also kind of soften the edges. Hey, folks. In Text Expander, what do we use? We're using language that says, most of the time I'm saying here, if you don't find something that works, let me know and we'll find something else that does work. Especially for meetings that are longer than an hour. Sometimes we can push things around. Sometimes Calendly can be overprotective of my calendar. But it's meant to make things easy. People can go and find what's available. So yes, make sure you've got that. The other side of it is, it can be overprotective. Recognize where those gaps are and make sure that you're going in and checking what's your availability look like for the next few weeks. I know I've got some travel coming up in the next few weeks, so I adjusted my availability to make sure that I had some more time available to let clients schedule things when I knew I was going to be out of the office and I'm going to be going to the airport. That's an entire day when I normally have client meetings. That's off the table. Here, let's make sure clients can still get on the schedule without it looking like I'm basically out of the office for a month.
Any tips about how to auto reply to a scheduling event?
One of the things that is in there is once you've started paying for a premium Calendly subscription, you can set up what happens next. So for certain of our clients, when you schedule your initial meeting, instead of it just being a generic thank you page, we're sending them over to YouTube to get them some answers on things. Or we're perhaps sending them other clients to video ask to get them to start doing other things. Recognize that Calendly gives you a lot of freedom in what happens. So not only what happens, what page do they go to after they've scheduled something, but when they get responses. You don't have to do it all at once, but start looking through and seeing how can you make the entire experience better.
Great. All right, next question. You talk a lot about having your dogs on the site. How do you know where to draw the line with showing personality?
So this is one where there is a line. It is vague. Obviously, I show the dogs. I talk about this all the time because it is an easy thing. It appeals to a lot of people. Lots of people have dogs. And so I'm making it more relatable for people to see who I am. This goes back to some advice I got on how to put your resume together. A lot of people, when they've got their resumes, they're throwing down at the end of the resume, here are my interests. They're trying to make themselves seem approachable. Here, I do these things. The problem is it's rarely so specific that anybody knows anything about you. When you put down, I like running and cooking and reading, nobody really knows anything about you. So the tip I got on that resume was make it specific about you. So here, bullet point 1, here's one interesting thing I've done. For me, between college and law school, I was the night manager of the Four Seasons for 3 years. Gives people something to ask about. And it's specific enough for them to know. Personality. Bullet point number 2, I enjoy the works of these people. And so I had, various authors, none of whom were especially niche. People should have heard of most of these. Bill Murray was on there. P.J. O'Rourke was on there. George R.R. Martin was on there. Why? These are people like artists people have heard of. And the point of it was make it broad so that you can have a conversation about it. What I wasn't doing, and Bobby, what you know, like I'm not telling people, hey, I'm into super niche metal. And I would love to have a conversation about the bands High on Fire and Dillinger Escape Plan. Now, I would love to have this conversation with almost anybody because those are some of the greatest bands ever. But none of my potential audience as getting hired would recognize that, and they'd also see this and be like, this dude is a total weirdo, we don't want him. It's about making yourself approachable. So it's a vague line. You want to make it approachable so people see this and say, oh, that's a person I can work with, I see myself there. Not throwing yourself into the just down the niche rabbit hole. Nobody in my target market, whether it was getting hired, getting a new client, almost nobody's hiring me for that. Now, if you're getting into something where I'm trying to get hired by a record label that focuses on taking small bands and making them medium-sized bands before they get picked up by Warner or whatever, that will make a lot more sense. So it's adjusting who and how you're presenting.
Okay, next question. Someone asked, what do I need to be doing with Web3, NFTs, DAOs, anything in the whole Web3 arena right now?
This answer is gonna sound a lot like the last one. Unless your clients are asking for this or you're trying to get hired by somebody who deals with this, almost certainly nothing right now. It's not that there aren't neat things. I'm not saying don't enjoy spending your time on this if you want to do that. But until you've got a real use case for this, I have a hard time seeing how this makes this easier for your clients to achieve their results. See, I have a hard time seeing how it will make your employees get their job done better and faster just as a result of this. With the exception of if you're trying to get hired as an attorney by a Web3 company, somebody putting out NFTs or somebody running a DAO, yeah, then obviously you probably want to be in that space so you can show that you know what you're talking about. But for almost all of this, I just don't see the use case right now on making this a thing we should be focused on. The other thing, Web3 and having our avatars or whatever they're calling them right now, everything looks like some downgraded version of the initial portal in the Nintendo Wii or Second Life. It's fine, but this stuff is 15 years old, and 15 years ago, nobody was doing this on a big scale anyway. Sure, it's fine, but most people aren't there yet, and we don't need to be the first one into the leading the charge on this when there's no real market for it.
Makes sense.
Just there's enough other stuff that we know works that taking these kind of crazy expensive chances right now, I just don't think it's there for it.
Yep. Even expensive with your time.
Yeah, exactly. We've got limited time. Focus on what works.
All right. Next question. What's one thing you've learned from a guest that you've implemented in your practice?
So one of the things that I still like, and we got from our interview with Calendly, was breaking up emails into smaller chunks. We want to show people how much we know. The problem is people get information overload. You get a wall of text from your attorney, people are going to glaze over. So making it simple and easy for them to understand. And this happened last night. We had a potential client. I had a first call with them, determined while they need some help, it's too early for us to help. There's not much we can do for them right now because of where their situation is. And at the end of it, I asked the potential client, would you be willing to leave us a review? And he said yes. So at the end of it, I thanked him for his time. Sir, we're happy to help you whenever you're ready to come back. I sent him the first email that just, here's the declination email, the required legalese I need to send you. So I've sent that. And then I go back in and I reply all to that email once it's sent and reply to that and include the request for him to send us a review. The reason to do that is it's separating it out. He's got 2 emails from me, and it's really clear that the second one has the link. And it's, thank you for agreeing to to leave us a review, here's how you do that. And that's on top. It's not buried in a longer email that's got all my legalese. They're all put together. It makes it easy for him, and that's the point.
And he did it.
We did it. And it's all in Text Expander.
Yep. Yep. That review came through this morning.
Even better.
Okay. Next question. You've talked about not showering clients with gifts, but are there any exceptions? When are gifts appropriate?
So this is something, and I'm sure when you start thinking about it, when you hire any professional, anybody who's there to help you move the needle on something, whether it's a doctor or a lawyer or a CPA or your barber or the guy who comes to cut the grass, you're not thinking to yourself, golly, I hope they get me a gift. You want the job done. You've already agreed on the price. Sure, you wouldn't mind something, but at the same time, we don't really know what most of our clients really like. And we don't want to get into this, well, I'm going to add this item to the bottom line where we're just going to send some stuff to them. So when are there exceptions? There aren't a whole lot. Occasionally we'll think about, for us as estate planners, in my practice, the gift I think about is, hey, when you have a new child and you want to make sure that they're incorporated into your documents, we include that. Look, it helps them take care of something that we're already doing. And no, this is not something with a bow on it, but it's a bonus of our practice that if you have a child later, your child gets incorporated into the documents. Of course, the way we draft documents, that child is already incorporated, but their name isn't in there. So when child number 2 or 3 or whatever comes along, we're happy to bring you back in, add their names to the documents, and not charge you for it. And this is a free service. It's in line. And so the way of thinking of it is, what can you do that makes sense for your clients? It doesn't have to be a box of chocolates. It doesn't have to be a book or a toy or something else like that. Think about, what are you helping your clients do and what makes sense along that vector. It's not just give them a thing. It's help them solve the problem. What can you do to help them solve the problem? 2 other things that we've started doing recently. Clients always ask, well, what do we do when something happens? How do people know how to contact you? And for years, I'd been at 3 different firms before I started my own. We didn't have a really good answer other than tell your people to call me. Well, nobody knows that. And when they're panicked, when something's happened, they don't necessarily know, call John the attorney. But now we're giving clients, when they sign their documents, a red binder with summaries of their documents, and it includes, if something happens, call these people in this order. And it's a big red binder, and it says emergency information. It's not leatherette. It's not embossed with their name. It's not a waste of stuff. It's pretty easy for us to do, but it gives them a chance to say, like, put this somewhere in the house where if somebody who doesn't know you, if the kids or your family or your siblings or your parents are coming through and looking for things, they're going to find this. But somebody who's just coming over for dinner, unless they're snooping, they're not going to find it. And that's the point. It's make it easy for those people. The other side of it is, if they're, people may get injured, and as my former roommate and Bobby, our mutual friend, Doug, longtime paramedic, told us, look, if you're in a car wreck, the paramedic is going to go through your wallet and try and figure out things about you. They may take some of the money. They probably won't. But Doug, I talked to Doug about this years ago of what information does he need. And I fiddled with producing my own card until I finally found, thankfully, somebody else who was much better at obtaining this card, and they're available 24/7. So when the paramedic goes through your wallet, they will see, oh, health information is available here. And there's a phone number, and they're available 24/7. You're not going to call John because I may be asleep or whatever. And again, making it easy in times of stress for people to get things done.
All right, we've got 3 questions left. Next one up. John, do you have any tips for getting to inbox 0 and replying to clients with super speed?
This is something where we've got episodes coming up on email delegation. I like inbox zero, right now I've got 0 unread messages in my inbox. And the way I've done that is I have somebody who helps me. There's no way you're going to be able to deal with the mountain of emails. So making sure not only, whether it's outsourced email assistants or if it's the associates or the other people on your staff who are helping you, make sure people know what to do, how to do it, make it easy for them to respond. And then once they've come up with those great responses, saving them so that you can use them again. And we're not crafting new responses every time. People can learn and pick up, this is what we need to be doing. This is how we do it. So it really is, you're going to get a lot of the same questions over and over. Where do we find this? How do we answer this? So the challenge for us is, how can you make it easy so that delivery of that, you may have to spend some time up front or one time programming the response, but then you've got the basic response forever. And again, it's important for me to make sure I send out those declination emails to people. I figured out my language on that, and now all I have to do is jump into Text Expander and type #decline, and it will shoot out, with all of the options I'm looking for, my standard declination email so that I can send it out in 15 seconds. Anybody else on staff can use the same language, but modified for coming from them if it's appropriate for them to send out that declination email.
So valuable, so useful. Okay, next question. This one's from me, actually. So yesterday I had to spend half an hour on the phone with my father. Classic, being tech support kid. My dad was sent, I think he was applying for a refi on his house, and he had to send all these documents in, and they just sent him a Dropbox link, and he opened it up and had no idea what to do with it. And so I had to spend all this time telling him how to upload all of his documents to Dropbox. How do you handle, John, document transfers with less tech savvy clients, and what should these people have done differently?
At a certain point, we've got to make decisions on how much we can do for clients. What is our standard? You might think of it as, you've got to be this tall to ride Space Mountain. You may have to be, this tech savvy to work with Smith & Jones LLC. And even if the client themselves isn't the one who's doing it, they've got to have somebody available to them who can help make this happen. And it's not uncommon. We have clients who are not tech savvy because they just never learned it, like your dad. We have clients who aren't the ones who are tech savvy because they've delegated down. They've got people who work for them, and they're the ones who are going to take care of it. There are many reasons, but you've got to realize, what can you do to make this easy for people? And at a certain point, it's conceivable that the mortgage company that your dad was dealing with, they probably just said, look, if you can't get this to us, we don't care. And, but when I look at our firm, we deal with things where sometimes people have these documents that are super old, they've never been scanned, and it doesn't matter if we send them a link to upload something, they don't have the documents ready to go, and getting them scanned, they're just not set up for it. So I don't blame the mortgage company for saying, look, we've got plenty of business. If your dad,
you can't figure this out, then tough.
If you can't figure this out, and thankfully, they were able to figure this out with your help, that was a decision they've probably thought about and just said, look, we're going this way. But for us, it's not unreasonable. We've got people who come in and, they'll have 3 inches thick of paper that they've looked at once, or they don't really know what's going on. And it's our job to help them make sense of all of that. And so we've got ways of scanning things effortlessly, easily for us to make that easy for them. Now, if they couldn't even get us the documents, if they're just being difficult all the way around, there are other lines, but we've made that decision. And again, unsurprising, you probably heard me say this before, everybody's going to be different, but you're going to have to set your own standards on what are you willing to accept, what is too much to ask of you.
All right, John, last question is a quickie. What are 3 apps / tech tools that you can't live without?
Well, I've already said 2 of them in this episode. So Calendly, for obvious reasons, make it easy for people to schedule with you. Text Expander, sponsor of the show, we use them all the time. I love that program. I'm tired of thinking about words in order. It makes it so easy to know this is what we say in this situation. So a third one, and this is where I'm struggling, and so I'll just make it 4. We use Zapier. Again, we're not transferring information around everywhere. We can set things up. I guess that's probably the big one. It allows us to connect all of our tools. And so the other ones that we use, Clio, Basecamp, Calendly, all the rest, all of these tools that help us run, it's all being put in there so we can get out what we need. And coming up after that, Airtable, we can generate our own custom data so that it's faster and we can see, building out an internal dashboard. How is the firm doing? Is the tide lifting us, or are we about ready to crash? That's not information that should just be in my head. It's better if everybody in the firm knows, hey, things are going well. This is what we're focused on. This is how we deliver information.
All right. Well, this was fun, and we're going to be doing this regularly. I think every 10 episodes or so, we're going to kind of collect all these questions that come our way. If you've got questions for us, please shoot us a tweet. Find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever. You know where to find us, or shoot us an email. You can email John at 5starcouncil.com, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks so much for listening. You can find more info on us and get your free white paper on client service at 5starcouncil.com. You can get in touch with me at john@5starcouncil.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe wherever fine podcasts are found and leave us a review wherever you can.